Hi, welcome to Help Solve the Case. My name's Christine Burke, retired police detective and sergeant, current law enforcement expert witness, and private investigator. Today, we are going to go over the indictment, the charges against Tyler Robinson, who is accused of killing Charlie Kirk. Next week, he is facing a preliminary hearing in Utah to determine probable cause. And so I thought it would be good if we take a look at the charges. If you're new to the channel, glad to have you here. I would love if you would subscribe, trying to get to 1,000 members because that gives me the ability to donate forensic genetic genealogy services to identify our over 15,500 unidentified humans across the United States, as well as donate my time and services to help police solve the hundreds of thousands of cold cases. Okay, so let's take a look at it. All right, so here is, let me just make sure. There we go. Let me change my layout. Hopefully that is good. Okay, so here we go. This was uploaded, Kate Conger Investigative Project. So thank you, Kate, for finding that and put that up here. I wasn't sure. I'm still not sure if I'm going to cover the preliminary hearing. Don't know exactly what they're going to say. But so that you and I, are informed, I thought it would be good to take a look at what the indictment says. This is information. Excuse me. This is an information. Okay. So it says he is charged with, I'm not going to read the whole thing verbatim. We're just going to go over a few of the charges. This came from the Utah County Attorney's Office. Count 1, aggravated murder, a capital felony. Okay, that's death penalty. In violation of Utah code that on September 10th, 2025, in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Charlie Kirk under the following circumstances. And we got subsection 3 there, because you have to meet all the elements of the crime and the statutes and the subsections of the statutes. When I talk about elements of the crime, they have to meet, and that's what they're going to have to show the probable cause at that hearing. Okay, that's what they're going to be discussing back and forth. And I heard it might take up to a week. We're not sure. Okay, so it says subsection 3 here, the defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to another individual other than Charlie Kirk and the defendant. Okay, so that's a special circumstance there. It also says conviction of this offense may carry the death penalty or, pursuant to Utah code, a mandatory term of imprisonment, life without parole, or an indeterminate term of not less than 25 years, and that may be for life. They've added a victim targeting enhancement in violation of Utah code. Tyler James Robinson intentionally, okay, this is the document saying this, this is the state saying this, Tyler James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. Okay, so that there was more to it, I guess, than a regular killing. What can you say about that? And again, these are allegations. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty here in the United States, right? Presumption of innocence. Notice, if the trier of fact finds beyond a reasonable doubt that the victim targeting enhancement applies, the sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider the defendant's selection of the victim as an aggravating factor. Okay, so that means that could be a sentencing enhancement. It also says it's a violent offense committed in the presence of a child, aggravating factor. So there were children there. The sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider as an aggravating factor in their deliberations that the defendant committed a violent criminal offense in the presence of a child. Okay, so all that is count 1 with enhancements. Now we have count 2. felony discharge. So the state is going to have to meet each element. Okay, so they're going to have to meet the element of aggravated murder, possibly the enhancements. Okay. And they're going to have the elements. They're going to have to meet the elements of the crime at the probable cause hearing. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, a first-degree felony in violation of Utah code. And in that, on September 10, 2025, in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, discharged a firearm in the direction of Charlie Kirk, knowing or having reason to believe that Charlie Kirk may be endangered by the discharge of the firearm, and the act caused serious bodily injury to Charlie Kirk. Okay, so we've got this second charge, which is talking about a discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury. We've got a victim targeting enhancement here also, and we've got the violence in the presence of the child here also. So 2 aggravating factors that they're asking for. Count 3, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony in violation of Utah code. In that, on September 10, 2025, in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense. Okay, so it could be any point in this process, all the way from hindering the investigation up to punishment. Okay, that he allegedly concealed or removed the firearm used to shoot Charlie Kirk, and the conduct that constitutes an offense would be a capital felony or first-degree felony. Now, this is interesting here because in how many cases, not too many cases that I see, people toss murder weapons all the time. People hide and conceal murder weapons all the time. And we rarely see an obstruction of justice charge for that. So that's very interesting here. They're talking about concealing or removing the firearm from the crime scene. Okay. Most crimes that we see, people are taking the murder weapon with them, right? So very interesting. Trying to think about what are they doing here with the strategy. Count 4, another count of obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony. In that, on or about September 11th, okay, so that's the next day, in Utah County, the defendant, with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, destroyed, concealed, or removed the clothing. Okay, so that's 2 counts. I mean, on the prosecution side, I like that. So it's not only the weapon, it's the clothing, they're saying. He destroyed, concealed, or removed the clothing he wore during the shooting, and that conduct constitutes an offense, would be a capital felony and a first-degree felony. Okay, so the destruction is coming in with the conduct for a capital felony. Okay, it doesn't say that in the other one, I don't believe. It does. Okay. Now, why is clothing important? Gunshot residue, trace evidence, all kinds of stuff. Things, right? Matching the description, matching videos, things like that. That's why they want the clothing, right? Count 5, tampering with a witness, a third-degree felony in violation of Utah code. In that, on or about September 10, 2025, in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, believed that an official proceeding or investigation was pending or about to be instituted, or intended to prevent an official proceeding or investigation, and attempted to induce or otherwise cause his roommate to withhold testimony, information, a document, or an item, to wit, directing his roommate to delete incriminating text messages. Okay? Again, don't usually see this on the front end. We usually see it on the back end. Okay, here we have another one, tampering with a witness. Let me know what you think in the comments, right? They are doing what's here called loading them up, okay? Another tampering, On September 11th, he attempted to induce or otherwise cause his roommate to withhold testimony or information, to wit, directing his roommate to stay silent if police question the roommate. I mean, that's pretty darn specific there, okay? Bam, 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 bam. Okay. Count 7, violent offense. They usually say charge up, plead down, okay? Violent offense committed in the presence of a child, a Class A misdemeanor. In that, on or about September 10th in Utah County, committed criminal homicide in the physical presence of a child younger than 14 years old with knowledge that a child was present and may have seen or heard the commission of the criminal homicide. And there's a victim targeting enhancement here on this one. I'm not sure why it's just on that one, because of, they're stating Charlie Kirk's political expression. And again, these are allegations. Okay, this is the charging document. These are the things that they're going to have to show probable cause for at the hearing this coming week. Okay, here's the probable cause statement. This is how the state is saying they got to those counts, to those charges, okay? So we have Brian Davis of the Utah State Bureau of Investigation. So he's the police officer, having probable cause to believe that the defendant committed the above listed offenses, submitted the following evidence in support of the filing of this information, okay? So he must have sat down with the attorney general or the state attorney, I didn't see who signed this, and gave him enough information that satisfied the state to file the information, okay? Many times in different states, police officer can make an arrest or they can file an information. When I came from Florida, the state attorney could file an information. We can make an arrest, they could file an information. And we used to sit down, and we would sit down with the state attorney, we would go over the case, and they would file an information, okay? Which is different than an indictment. Okay. So here's what he says. Okay, so this is what they're going to have to prove. This is what they're going to talk about this week. On September 10th, 2025, at approximately 12:23 p.m. So think about these things. If you're watching it, take some notes, do some screenshot, and see how they're going to hold this up. Because the defense is going to come and say, nope. And the state's going to say, yep. Okay, we always have our two shows that are going on, right? Prosecution and defense. So, some of this is not indisputable. So on September 10th at approximately 12:23 p.m., Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. I'm going to actually take some notes here. While speaking to a large crowd on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Okay, so this is interesting. We don't have Orem police making this statement to the state attorney. We have Brian Davis of the Utah State Bureau of Investigations, which I'm not too familiar with Utah, but that sounds like the state agency. Here in Arizona, we have DPS. In Florida, we had FDLE. It sounds like that's the Utah one, okay? So they're taking the primary, or they're the one relaying the information. Just an interesting point, okay? So he was shot, again, allegations, shot and killed speaking to a large crowd on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. I think we know that, right? Okay, so that says counts 1 and 2. Okay, so count 1 and count 2 because he was shot and killed. All right, that is the 1 and the 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury. We observed the serious bodily injury. We did know that he died. Now, the aggravated with the intentionally, that's the part, okay? That's the intentionally part. And that the defendant did it, okay? Because these are, again, allegations. So they're saying that that covers counts 1 and 2. It's nice. They're trying to help us out here. Police found the suspected murder weapon, a bolt-action 30-06 rifle nearby. Over the next, just make a note here. Because I'm going to watch it probably. Over the next approximately 33 hours, they connected a manhunt for the shooter until the evening of September 11th, 2025, when Tyler James Robinson surrendered to police at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Okay. DNA. You know I love those letters. Consistent. That's interesting. Consistent with Robinson. Okay, so we want to know what the consistency is and how they're going to prove the consistency, right? DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the rifle's trigger. Now, I'm going to mess y'all up here a little bit. We got to hop over to the other side. And we haven't gotten there yet. I recall hearing the gun was left in the woods and something. So could somebody else, let's just theorize, have in the period that the gun, I don't know exactly when the time frame that the gun was found, but these are the things that we have to start thinking, like the defense. The prosecution should think about this, the cops should think about this, and the defense should think about this. You guys should think about this. How long was that gun unattended? That maybe, could it be possible that somebody else did the shooting and Tyler just collected the gun? If that is his DNA, we don't know, it's consistent. Okay, so we got to understand what consistent is. And remember, we only need probable cause. We're not beyond a reasonable doubt yet, but these are things, if you're the prosecution and you're the defense, if we're looking into this case, we got to start thinking about this. What if he picked it up, in the woods and was like, oh, cool rifle. DNA on the trigger. It doesn't say DNA on the stock, DNA on the barrel, or anything like that right now. That's where we are, okay? Just throwing that out there. Things to be thinking about. After shooting Mr. Kirk, Mr. Robinson hid the gun, count 3. That is concealed or removed the firearm, okay? Discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle, okay, we saw that one, and told his lover roommate to delete incriminating text messages, count 5, that's obstruction, and not talk to police, count 6. And children were present at the time of the shooting, count 7. So, let's see if they're going to give us more details here. The shooting. Turning Point USA, a nonprofit organization founded by Charlie Kirk, organized an event. I'm just going to summarize a little bit here. The event was the first in a series of similar events. He's a well-known, I don't know which one you say there, conservative activist, famous for these types of events where he discusses various political issues and debates with audience members. His events and comments have garnered a significant number of supporters and draw the ire of many who disagree with his political views. The event was announced far in advance and garnered significant publicity and interest. Several hundred people attended. Mr. Kirk was interacting with the crowd before the event officially got underway. Then at noon, approximately at noon, Mr. Kirk seated himself under a portable canopy behind a table and a microphone. He began speaking to the crowd, fielding questions, a format Mr. Kirk commonly used. He allowed his questioners to approach the microphone positioned directly in front of him. And we can see that from the video. Mr. Kirk's team members were very close to him on his left and right, as well as some behind his canopy. others at various close locations. The crowd surrounded him on 3 sides. Temporary metal fencing separated attendees. Directly above and behind was the Hall of Flags, an indoor walkway spanning several hundred feet, floor-to-ceiling glass windows which overlooked the plaza. People were in the walkway at the time of the shooting. I believe that they're setting the stage, no pun intended here, for the possibly injuring other people. I think we saw that in one of the counts, okay? Approximately 15 minutes into the event, Mr. Kirk was answering a question about mass shootings by transgender individuals when a gunshot rang out. The bullet struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. He slumped to the ground almost immediately. The bullet's trajectory passed closely to several other individuals besides Mr. Kirk, including the questioner who was standing directly in front of Mr. Kirk. Children were visible near Mr. Kirk's stage when he was shot. Okay, so we've got the serious injury, we got the shooting, we've got the people, we've got the children. Okay, going through these elements of these crimes. Mr. Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was declared deceased. The medical examiner's report is pending, and that is at the time of this information. Okay, so now they're talking about surveillance. What did surveillance pick up? At the moment of the shot, the UVU police officer was watching the crowd from an elevated vantage point. As soon as he heard the shot, he began to scan the area for threats. Believing the shot came from a rifle because of its sound, he looked for potential sniper positions. He noted a roof area approximately 160 yards away from Mr. Kirk as a potential shooting position and rushed there to look for evidence. The suspected shooting position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway. To access the suspected location, a person must climb over a railing and then drop to the roof, only slightly below. The UVU officer climbed over the railing and down onto the roof. He then walked to the suspected shooting position and confirmed a clear shooting corridor between the position and Mr. Kirk's sight line, maybe. I'm not familiar with the shooting corridor, but nothing was blocking it, okay? He also noticed markings in the gravel rooftop consistent with a sniper, interesting choice of words, having lain on the roof. Impressions in the gravel potentially left by the elbows, knees, and feet of a person in a prone shooting position. Okay, do we have photos of that? Did he disturb it? What do we have to see that was the shooting position? We would look at trajectory. We would look at distance, wind, all that stuff. Was it possible? Was the gun possible? And was that preserved? Was that measured, right? Think when I'm looking at this, we know it's gravel, but I'm thinking about the beach. Think about kneeling down at the beach or kneeling down in the sand. Grass doesn't usually work that well, but if you kneel on your elbows and your knees and your feet, you're going to see the 3 divots maybe or whatever. Did they measure them? That would be a good question for the defense. Did they measure it? Did they take photos? Was it disturbed? Okay. Police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at approximately 12:15 p.m. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view for a short time, the camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low crawling to the area the UVU officer recognized as where the suspected sniper had dropped into a prone shooting position. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, the individual arose and ran across the roof to the northeast. This discovery, so it sounds like things are kind of matching up, whoever that dark clothed individual is. Discovery led to an intensive review of UVU surveillance recordings to attempt to track and identify the suspect. Surveillance revealed the following. At approximately 11:51 a.m., the suspect entered the campus from the north. He is seen wearing a black shirt with an American flag in its center, a dark baseball cap, and large sunglasses. Throughout the surveillance, the suspect keeps his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face. As he proceeds across the campus, he is seen walking with an unusual gait. Okay, now we have something a biomechanical engineer might be able to look at. Okay, the suspect walks with very little bending in his right leg, consistent with a rifle being hidden in his pants. Okay, that's interesting that they know that at the time they wrote this information. Just throwing that out there, right? I was thinking physical deformity, physical injury, past physical injury. Okay, no, they're saying it's the rifle hidden in his pants. Okay, we have to have linkage on the defense side and the prosecution side. We have to have linkage from start to finish of how one person becomes that person and then leaves and the gun becomes that gun and all that. Okay, connecting the dots. Okay. This unusual gait continues until the suspect is seen crossing the railing off the open walkway and onto the roof, where he leaves the camera's view. A camera later captures the suspect as he runs across the roof to the suspected shooting position. Do we see a weapon? Immediately after the shot was fired, a camera captures the suspect running across the roof, carrying an item whose shape is consistent with the rifle. The suspect is then seen climbing down from the roof. He appears to drop the item he was carrying as he hits the ground in a controlled fall. He then picks up the item and runs towards the northeast end of campus. And I know there was a lot of controversy when this happened about, what that camera showed, the getting off the roof thing. Expanded crime scene investigation. Law enforcement officers followed the suspect's escape path to the northeast end of campus, where they believe the suspect left campus and entered a wooded area. In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. So where was the towel the entire time? How long between the shooting and finding the rifle? The rifle contained 1 spent round and 3 unspent rounds. This is consistent with the facts officers observed at the time of and immediately after the shooting. No shell casings were found on the roof, suggesting a bolt action rather than an auto-loading weapon, and only a single round was fired. Now, my gun people, if the casing popped out, what do we know to do? Police your brass. Okay? I see a lot of probable cause written up like this, that just because there's not a casing, it must be a this or that. It must be a pistol. It must be a this. It must be a that. What do you guys think of that? Okay? Each round in the rifle, and again, I don't know how much a 30-06, I don't know how many rounds it holds, how many are left. Each round in the rifle contains an etched inscription as follows. I don't even know how to pronounce these right. Notices, bulge, OWO, what's this? Hey, fascist, catch. Arrow symbols. Oh, Bella, ciao. I don't speak Italian. If you read this, you are gay, LMAO. How many rounds go in so they say the fired one. How many go in a 30-06? The rifle, ammunition rounds, were there fingerprints on the casings and the rounds. The rifle, ammunition rounds, oh, here we go, and towel were sent for forensic processing. DNA consistent with Robinson's was found on the trigger. Consistent. Okay. other parts of the rifle, okay, we didn't hear that before, the fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel. Okay, so we're moving away from, it sounds like, the accidentally picked it up in the forest, right? Just theorizing, playing both sides here, okay? What if, what if, what if? Law enforcement was unable to immediately locate the shooter, so they published photos of the shooter from the UVU surveillance cameras and asked for the public's help to identify him. Meanwhile, law enforcement continued to try to identify the shooter through other means. Now, just because DNA is on the casings and the rounds and the trigger does not mean beyond a reasonable doubt. We're not at beyond a reasonable doubt. We're just raising questions. We're at probable cause, okay? Which is way less. The Washington County investigation. On the evening of September 11th, as law enforcement continued their investigation, so this is a day later, Tyler James Robinson went to the Washington County Sheriff's Office with his parents and a family friend to turn himself in. Robinson's mother stated the following to police. On September 11th, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought the shooter looked like her son. Can you imagine? I can't imagine. Robinson's mother called her son and asked him where he was. He said he was at home sick and that he had also been at home sick on September 10th. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her husband. It's got to be so hard that the suspected shooter looked like Robinson. Robinson's father agreed. Sometimes it's really hard to do the right thing. Again, this is allegedly, right? But even the fact that you have to suspect your own child and turn your child in, I can't imagine. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more left, becoming more pro-gay and trans-right oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who is transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a, quote, stupid venue, end quote, for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. I'm guessing thinking he would have got rid of it. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson. Robinson implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. As they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was the shooter and stated he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy, meaning Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turning himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who is a retired deputy sheriff. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Robinson to turn himself in. The family friend spoke to police and reported telling Robinson that it would be best if he brought all the evidence with him to the sheriff's office to avoid police having to search his parents' home. The family friend also asked Robinson if he had any clothes that were related to what he did. Robinson replied that he had disposed of the clothes in different areas. The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting and provided those messages to police. On September 10, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, quote, Drop what you're doing, comma, look under my keyboard, end quote. The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, quote, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it, end quote. Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange took place. After reading the note, the roommate responded, what? You're joking, right? And it goes back and forth. He's talking about he's got to grab his rifle, hope to keep it a secret till he died of old age. Sorry to involve you. He's saying you weren't the one that did it. I am. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude. It's going on and on and on. He says he's been planning it. The roommate asks how long he's been planning it. Over a week. He's trying to get to the rifle. He's wishing he had circled back and grabbed it as soon as he got to his car. He said, I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. He says something if he had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the blank will I explain losing it to my old man? If this is true, right, this is allegations, this conversation, what about the guy? What about Charlie Kirk? Like, you're worried about the rifle. Isn't that interesting? He's worried about his grandfather's rifle, not about the life. He's worried about the rifle. He's worried about involving his roommate. Again, allegedly, if this is true. But it was okay to kill someone with his grandfather's rifle. But he's worried what his dad's going to think. It's just... Then he says, remember how I was engraving bullets? Okay, there's a nexus there. The blank messages are mostly a big meme. If I see, quote, notices bulge, UWU, end quote, on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really sucks. Judging from today, I say Grandpa's gun does just fine. Anyway, he talks about deleting this exchange. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. You're all I worry about. Please don't talk to the media and stay silent. So it wasn't a long drawn out plea about, he just was asked to delete the text, and that, okay? You can slow this down and read it if you want to. So it said, police executed a search warrant on Robinson's residence. During that search, police discovered a shell casing with etchings like the etchings found on the shells in the rifle near UVU. Police also found several targets with bullet holes in Robinson's home. Count 1, aggravated murder, pertains to Robinson's shooting and killing of Charlie Kirk in a manner that exposed others, in addition to Mr. Kirk, to a great risk of death. Now, I don't know if we're talking about the intentional with the engraving the bullets. Trying to remember if there was anything specific to him. They just say in a manner that exposed others. That's why they were talking about the crowd. Felony discharge. Okay, endangering those in the bullet's path. That's why they were talking about all the different areas, the glass and everything, where if the bullet went wrong, where it could go. Obstructing justice, hiding the rifle, hiding the clothing, his statements to his roommate, and the violence committed in the presence of the child. So, Jeffrey Gray, the Utah County Attorney, okay, so he's not the state attorney, he's the Utah County Attorney. He says, based upon the evidence received from Brian Davis of the Utah State Bureau of Investigations, I have reason to believe that the defendant committed the offenses as charged herein. So that's what we're going to have the preliminary hearing about this week, that there's probable cause, that is probable cause. The prosecution's going to support it. The defense has to attack it. The defense is going to try to show that there was no probable cause. So it may be very interesting. They're talking about DNA. They're talking about other things. Don't know how much detail they're going to get into, but I heard there's already been a lot of back and forth. So again, not sure if I'm going to cover it fully. I might not, but because of this, I thought we would read this here. Hopefully you find this interesting. If so, I would love a subscribe. Again, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers minimum so that we can do the work to identify these unknown humans and solve crime and solve cases just like this. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Please feel free to put your comments below and let me know what you think. Let me know what you've heard, because I really haven't been following this. Okay, see you later.